Blog Talk Radio. You've tuned in to the Ask Michi Show on Blog Talk Radio. This is where Michi and her guests talk about life, love, and relationships. Be a part of the conversation by calling 646-915-9112. So, without delay, welcome to the studio of Michi.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's Ask Michi Show. We have our special guest today, Mr. Jesse Brizendine. Just before we introduce him on, just a few housekeeping tips. As always, if you would like to chat with us, you can do so by logging on to blogtalkradio.com and go to the chat option, or you can call in live directly at 646-915-9112, and we'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have. If you need to contact me, you can always contact me by email at michirenee@michirenee.com, and as well as through social media, all of it through at Michi Renee. So our guest today is a world leader in empowering humanity to achieve their full potential in life. Jesse Brizendine is an internationally recognized personal trainer, life coach, adventurer, photographer, author, and speaker who motivates, educates, and inspires people worldwide. He is the founder and the creator of the 1-year 1,000 challenge that focuses on motivating and inspiring people to live their greatest lives possible. In addition, he is also the creator of Ouch, My Heart is Broken, a website dedicated to helping people heal, recover, and move forward from heartbreak. Jesse works with people from all over the world. He has trained and coached thousands of people from all walks of life, including doctors, lawyers, librarians, actors, bankers, veterinarians, computer technicians, chiropractors, dentists, athletes, musicians, pretty much any and everyone. In addition to that, he interacts with thousands of people daily through his 1-year 1,000 challenge, motivating them to live their greatest possible life. Jesse has also trained dozens of other trainers on how to become better trainers. Without further ado, welcome to the show, Jesse.
Hey, Michi, thanks so much for having me.
It was my pleasure. So let's just jump right in. Tell me about how you got involved with empowering people. Where did that all come from?
Where does that all come from? I think since I remember having one of those moments when I was a little kid, and I can remember it almost just as like it was yesterday, walking up this little hill and getting this feeling that, I had a reason for being here. And over the course of my life, that moment would resurface at different times, just kind of randomly. I can remember in high school sitting there in the computer lab and all of a sudden having that moment, you just shoot back through me. There's just this energy, and I always gravitated towards people. I remember as a kid I related better to adults, and I was always very intuitive, and there's this feeling of wanting to help people and do more. And so as I grew as a person, and I went through my own struggles when I was younger, going through image issues and wouldn't like what I see in the mirror, and literally just had the worst self-dialogue ever, right? And as I changed that and I realized how dramatically me making those changes affected my life, I knew that I needed to go in to do something that I could help people experience the same change. And that led to personal training, and then personal training led to coaching, and, here I am now.
Okay. So were there any periods of time in your life where you kind of thought, you shied away from it? Because I know for me personally, my story is kind of similar, that, I always knew that it was my calling. People would always keep me out and those type of things. But for the longest time, I shied away from it. It's like, you know what? I don't want to do that. Even though I knew it was something that I should be doing, I kind of shied away from it. Did you ever have any feelings or thoughts as it relates to that? not necessarily wanting to embrace and do those things?
I think I was, once I got on the path, I stayed on the path, but my reservations were more of, I would get that ambivalence about pushing myself to go to that next level. You know, I would have that conversation with myself where, you know, things are good right now, and you know, I'm making a difference and whatnot, and there would be this inner voice that would be saying, you know, you can do more, you can reach to greater heights. And I would kind of, oh, no, you know, it's okay. You know, keep it down. And you know, me and that inner voice have had quite a few conversations over the years, and I think
right,
that
I can relate to that.
Yeah, and I think everybody can, right? We all have that inner voice that says, you know, that will tell us, oh, hey, yo, you know, you don't need to go to the gym right now. You can stay at home and eat bonbons. I know you and I were just talking before the show came on about working out, and I was telling you I was going to go exercise tonight. But that inner voice definitely pops up and says, "Oh, Jesse, no, you could stay back and make some chocolate chip cookies or something. You don't need to go to the gym."
Right. Yeah, it's like constantly mental talking to yourself. Yeah, we got to go to the gym. You know,
yep.
we can't stay at home today. We got to go work out. So.
Yeah, exactly. Chocolate chip cookies aren't going to help.
Right. So one of the things that caught my attention, and when I came across your information, is your 1 year 1,000 challenge. Tell me about that, and where did that all come from, and how did you come up with the idea, and were you able to do 1,000 in 1 year?
Yeah. The 1,000 challenge, how it came about was a few years ago. I went through I experienced my first, you know, real significant deaths, and I experienced two of them within about 6 months of each other. One of my best friends committed suicide, and he, you know, basically staged it so I'd be the one that found him right when I got to where he was. He shot himself. I got in. He was still alive. You know, I was the one trying to do CPR on him. With another friend, we were trying to do CPR. You know, went to the hospital, the whole thing. And this was, you know, one of my very best friends, somebody who I was extremely close to, I hung out with, had been friends for several years. And when that happened, it really kind of, I'd never been, you know, I'd been knocked down before, but never in that way. And it was so different, too, because that death was such a loss of innocence for me, where it was not only just having death like that, but to see it and to see that whole transition happen, and to see a friend of yours who is this larger-than-life figure in your life in this horribly vulnerable place where they're literally gasping for breath, you know, trying to stay alive. And I really struggled with it. You know, I really struggled with it. And as I was starting, you know, for the next several months, I had a really tough time, kind of went back and forth trying to find myself again. And a lot of my surrounding world kind of fell apart. Friendships were faltering and whatnot. And I went to Haiti to help with the earthquake recovery, and I came back, and that kind of reinvigorated me. And right after I got back from Haiti, I was talking on the phone with my dad, telling him about Haiti and telling him how amazing it was and how I felt like I was getting to be myself again. And the next morning, my dad just dropped dead. And so I had these two super significant losses, right? And the ironic, well, not really the ironic part, but the part that I really struggled with for a while is I was going to go home for that Christmas and see my family. I ended up not doing that because I was still so spun out from my friend's suicide that I felt like I need to get out of town and just have some time for myself. And I thought to myself, oh, you know, there's always going to be the next time I can see my family. You know, I don't think people really stop to grasp the mortality in our life, right? We just kind of go along and think death is something that happens to other people, not to us. And, you know, if I would have gone home, I would have seen my dad alive one last time, and I didn't. And when that happened, you know, the two deaths combined, I really struggled for most of that next year and just trying to find myself and trying to get back to a good place. And I was with some friends at lunch one day and talking about if I'd ever been to this restaurant. And I said, no, I've never been there. And then the conversation kind of evolved into, boy, it'd be cool to try to do something, like 100 new things in a year, that you've never done before. And I said, what I should do is I should try to do 1,000 things I've never done before. And they both said, 1,000, you can't do 1,000. And that's impossible. But that's the whole point, is it needs to be something significant enough where it's going to push me to do something. Because I had been such in the mindset of trying to survive and move forward from the loss that I wanted to do something for myself that forced me to focus on living. And it was awesome. I mean, it was a life-changing experience for me.
That's great. So, what were some of the things that, some of the significant things that you accomplished on your 1,000 challenge?
I did some, so I made a couple of goals for myself. And one of the goals for it was to try to have as many of them be as free as possible. So I think I did 1,022 things in that year, and the average cost of them was about $2.10 per thing.
You said $2.10?
Yeah, about $2.10 is what it averaged out to. And there was 4 of those things. 4 of those were the big ticket things that were the most expensive. And otherwise, everything else, a lot of the stuff I did, I was able to figure out how to do it for free or extremely low cost. And my favorite thing that I did that year was I did this event where I had people from all over the world take a picture of the sunrise and sunset, wherever they were in the world, and put the pictures in. And then I put a video together for it, and you got to literally watch the sunrise and set around the world that day, and it was the most amazing thing. It was the coolest thing because
that sounds really cool.
Oh, it was so awesome, and we did another one where we had an international trash cleanup day, and it was the same thing. People from all over the world donated an hour of going to go pick up trash in the local community and post it on the Facebook page, and it was neat because you could see how it grew. It grew beyond me, and it created this community of people where, what is the expression? Many hands make light work, right? And so here we had this global community that was willing to do things together, and it made an amazing difference for all of us.
Wow. I just happened to click on the link just to look at some of your challenges that you had, and I see where you had 1 year without cookies. How did that go?
So it's no accident that I used chocolate chip cookies as a temptation right a few minutes ago. I love cookies, and I will never forget this. So 10 days into that year, I found myself standing in front of a box full of cookies. And I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm having this conversation with myself, telling myself, well, if I have a cookie now, it's not going to be that big a deal. It's just not that big a deal. And, so what? It's just one. And I started to reach for the cookie, and I told myself, no. That's the whole point of this whole thing, is to try to challenge myself to do something right. So if I give up on it right now, and so other than that, I did really well. There was one other time where I was in Europe, actually, and I was on a plane, and they had given us these like biscuit type things, and it was this type of and I remember I took a bite of it, and I looked at it, and I realized what I was doing. I asked my friend, wait a minute, this says biscuit on it, but is this considered a cookie? And we were having this discussion on whether it was, and so I spit it out really quick because I didn't want to count it if it was.
Okay. So how would someone, if they wanted to do this 1 year 1,000 challenge, how would you suggest that they get started, or how to create accountability and that kind of thing?
That's a great question. I think the key is to start in your local area. I think a lot of when I was doing the 1,000 challenge, people would ask me, they said, well, is this just like a year of bucket list stuff? And it wasn't that at all. And I'm not particularly a big fan of bucket lists because the perception of them is such that we'll put these big things on there, right? Like the trip to Rome or to go and see the Eiffel Tower. But those things have such a such a high dollar amount attached to them that it almost is demotivating to people. They look at it on their wall and they think, oh, yeah, that's a trip I can't afford to do yet. As opposed to just opening their eyes and looking around outside of them and saying, okay, well, what can I do? What can I explore? And it can be something as simple as making a list of all the local spots, local cultural attractions, local tourist attractions that they've never been to their own town. You know, I can't tell you how many different towns and places I went to during this and talked to people who had never done some of the stuff in those towns that were the big things to do. It could be just doing things like making it a daily habit to wake up and go down and watch the sunrise somewhere, or whatever it is for them, something that's significant, something that's unique to them. But the point is that they're engaging, they're making the conscious effort to engage in the daily practice of doing something different that forces them to get outside of their normal routine.
Mhm. Okay. And that's definitely a key. Is sometimes we get stuck in our comfort zone and we don't know how to get out of it or do something different to make things better or more fun and exciting. So after that challenge, did you do anything else like that, or did you just kind of leave it open?
After I finished, I woke up the next morning on January 1st, because the challenge ran from January 1st at 12:01 a.m. to December 31st at 11:59 p.m. So it was a full calendar year. And I remember waking up that next morning and thinking, well, now what? And so the first 4 or 5 days of that year, it felt so, I almost felt wrong to not be doing something. So I remember the first 4 or 5 days I kept going out, kept trying to find new things to do, and then finally the first day came where I didn't do something different, and I remember just kind of sitting there feeling I had done something so wrong, but the cool thing was with it is the skill set of it and the lessons I learned, it stuck with me. I cannot tell you things like just simple things like falling in love with photography or falling in love with road trips. Just the joy of being able to randomly jump in my car and go for a drive to some place I've never been to. And, grabbing a backpack and throwing a couple pairs of underwear in it and hitting the road. It's just, there's things like that that are the bigger takeaways from an experience like that, the zest and the love for life and to experience what's out there. And those are things that have stayed with me, and those are things that, to answer your question in a long-winded way, did I do anything different like that? I haven't done another 1,000 challenge type thing again, but what I learned from the 1,000 challenge, I do my best to do every day.
Right. And that's all you can ask for. So tell me about your Broken Heart website. What is that about? Where did that come from?
Okay, so in June of 2007, I had my first love broke up with me, and it was just one of those kind of, it seemed like it was out of nowhere, and it really spun me hard. I really struggled from it. I was crying all the time. I was a mess. I mean, there was times I remember one of my good friends and I still joke about this today, because the first time we met, he had just transferred to work at the gym I was working at the time, and he comes and introduces himself to me, and we shake hands, and I look at him and say, my girlfriend just broke up with me. I need to go home because I can't stop crying. And he said, okay, fine. And it was like that for a long, long time. And there was times where, the pain literally seemed so intense that I felt like I had a dialogue with myself, too. I was like, man, do I really want to go on living if the pain is going to be like this all the time, if this is what life's going to be like? And I was trying to figure out where this pain was coming from and what I needed to do about it. I would Google I would Google search things, and what I found was there was not a lot of information out there for guys with heartbreak. It just wasn't. Guys are supposed to have the stiff upper lip, right, and just move forward, or guys are supposed to go in and go out and date and jump into bed with somebody else and, make things fine that way. And I wasn't that. I was crying. I was messed up. And so as I was researching more and more, I thought to myself, man, there's no way that I'm the only one experiencing this pain. There has to be somebody else out there that's going through this. I couldn't find that other person, so what I thought would be effective is maybe I could share my story and help other people. Because for me, I've always best helped myself by helping others. And so I decided to make this website. And I had no idea what I was doing or how to do anything with web design or anything like that. But I made the site and I put it out there. And I'll never forget this. When the first email I got back from that site, I don't know how this guy found it to this day, but he wrote to me and he said, and I kept the website. I always kept it as an alias until just last year, and then I kind of made it more of a public thing. But before that, I was always under a pen name of Michael, so there was no connection back to me. And this guy wrote to me and he told me his story about a relationship he had, how it split up, how they came back together 10, 20 years later, and it looked like it was going to be the one forever. She breaks up with him. He's so devastated that he tries to go to a therapist, tries to go to a priest, tries to go through this whole thing to get himself back on track. Can't do it. Got to the point where the pain was getting so great that he had made plans to kill himself.
Oh, wow.
He writes this to me, and he says that he found that site, read my story, and there was something about the story that clicked with him. And he said that when he read it, it gave him hope, and it was the first hope he'd experienced in a long time. And he wrote to me, and I'll never forget this, he said, not only did you help me, but you saved my life. Fast forward about a year and a half, 2.5 years later, the guy emails me again to tell me that he had met someone, that they had gotten married, and they were pregnant, expecting their first child.
Oh, wow. That's absolutely fabulous. That's such a great story.
Yeah, super cool, right? Super cool.
Right. So is the site, is it all types of people, men and women, or is it generally men, or is it?
Yeah, now it's almost all, it's 50-50. It's pretty even. I did a horrible job when I first started the site of keeping it to men only, because as soon as I started getting the emails from women, I would respond to them, and my heart would just go out to anybody who was going through the pain. So it's 50-50 now. It's men and women writing on there.
Oh, okay. And if someone wants to get in touch with you or find out more information about what you do and different things like that, go ahead and give out your contact information for social media and all that.
Yeah, so people can get a hold of me at my website, which is just www.jessebrizendine.com. That's JESSEBRISENDINE.com. Or you can find me on Facebook, which is 1 Year 1000 Challenge, and Twitter is @JesseBriz, BRIS.
Okay. Oh, and it looks like we have a question that came in on the chat line. And this question is about loss, death, well, it doesn't really say if it was a family member or what. It's just, the question was just, how do you handle the loss of someone that's close to you?
I think I've read and I've spoken on psychology and emotions and everything else about loss, about grief, all those things. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, there is no absolute right way to deal with it. What works best for me and what I've decided for me is my best approach to it is, you have to look at the loss as, there's a couple facets to it. One, the pain you're feeling right now, there's the pain that you're feeling is a direct reflection of the level of love you had for that person. And that's really quite a beautiful thing, to think that you can feel this deeply, because it shows how deeply you loved and cared for that person when they were here. And just because that person's gone doesn't mean that you don't have that love, that depth of love you have for them changes. You may not be able to share it with them in the same way or share the same physical experiences, but you still have that love for them. The other thing I think that's really helpful for me is look at that person and look at how you're feeling right now. And again, the pain you're feeling is a reflection of the depth of love you have for that person. So that person's obviously some sort of significant person to your life. They influenced your life greatly. They made a mark on your life. You created some amazing memories with them. How you choose to live your life going forward is ultimately how you're going to choose to honor that person's memory. So when we face loss, if you become consumed by the loss, you're not really honoring that person's memory. But if instead you look at the loss and you say, I hurt, I'm sad, and I miss this person, but I'm going to go forward and live my life the best way I can in honor of them, then the loss, you're not becoming the loss, but instead you're defining the loss. You can give it meaning, and I think that's one of the most empowering places to be from. A lot of places will talk about, the way you deal with it is you go through different steps of the grieving process and blah, 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 blah. And is there some validity to that? Yeah, for sure. But it doesn't need to be so contrived and thought out like that. It's just look at the loss, look at this person and see the meaning they gave to your life, and then define the meaning that you want their legacy basically to be in your heart and your actions going forward. And I think that is one of the most empowering places, and it's something that's gotten me through, and it helps guide me through the losses I've experienced. And there's times I still get sad. There's times I still miss them. There's times I still cry, randomly. Just random thoughts will pop in my head, and I miss people that I've lost. But then I also, when I feel that, I remind myself, this is because I love them that much that I can still feel this way. And they're still close to me. The memory of them still resides inside of me, and I have an ability now to honor them by going forward in how I live my life.
Right. And when I was doing some research, I just wanted to acknowledge, I know you recently lost your friend, and I just want to, say, although I can't relate, I've not had anyone that close to me. I am sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
As it relates to that. But I can only imagine, I know the people who are close to me, and I still have both my parents who are still alive, so I can only imagine that when the time comes, that the love that I feel and have for them, I can only imagine what that pain is going to be like. And I just hope that I have other people and place and resources to help me through that process. So to the person who sent in that, I'm sorry for your loss as well, and if you just need someone to talk to, I'm sure myself or Jesse would not mind you reaching out. Again,
Absolutely.
The email address for me is michirenee@gmail.com. And Jesse, what's your email address, or however you want to contact you?
Yeah, just through my website, which is jessebrisbane.com.
Okay. All right. Well, this has been such a pleasure speaking with you today, and I look forward to doing it again in the future and hearing about all the great things that you have going on. You're definitely an inspiration, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
Michi, thanks so much for having me on. I really, really appreciated the opportunity, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ask Michi Show on Blog Talk Radio, where we talk about life, love, and relationships, weekly at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Reach us on Twitter and Facebook under Michi Renee, or by email at michirenee@gmail.com. Until next time, live life and love someone like there's no tomorrow.